Welcome back to my belated annual Oscar series where I talk about all the Oscar categories except for the short film ones. I rank all the nominees per category according to who I think deserves to win the Oscar. Then I make a prediction for who I think will win that Oscar. But of course right now I'm talking about the categories from last year since they didn't get to do it then. And now we have our next major category, and that is Best Supporting Actor. And the nominees are Christian Bale as Michael Burry in The Big Short, Tom Hardy as John Fitzgerald in The Revenant, Mark Ruffalo as Michael Resendez in Spotlight, Mark Rylance as Rudolph Abel in Bridge of Spies, and Sylvester Stallone as Rocky Balboa in Creed. Now this is a really solid list in my opinion. Thankfully, unlike the Best Supporting Actress category of this year, there was no category fraud. Like, everyone here is a supporting actor, definitely. However, there is one I would leave off here, so let's get into it. So in terms of who I think should have won the Oscar, at 5th place I'm going to put Christian Bale. Now, Christian Bale is always good in his roles, and he does convincingly play a real-life guy with Asperger syndrome in this movie, but I just really couldn't get emotionally invested in him, and I'm not sure if that's really a problem with Christian Bale or a problem with the script or the direction, but I just didn't really latch onto his character like I latched onto Steve Carell's character, and if they were going to nominate anyone from The Big Short, I think it should have been Steve Carell. I guess I do put some of the blame on Christian Bale because there was room to care for him emotionally, but the movie just didn't give us enough time to latch onto him. He's ultimately just part of the ensemble, but he's just such a small part of it that he didn't really make an impression on me. Now at 4th place, I'm going to put Tom Hardy. Now, like his co-star Leonardo DiCaprio in The Revenant, this role is extremely demanding, physically speaking, and Tom Hardy always does physical roles very well. But what sets this role apart from someone like Bane is the fact that, John Fitzgerald is a real menacing guy, and Tom Hardy does communicate that really well, but he's also a total coward, and it's great how he finds that middle ground between these two supposedly contradictory things and makes it work for this character. The only thing I would really hold against Tom Hardy is the fact that it's really difficult to understand him the first time you watch The Revenant. He does have a knack for, mumbling through his lines. It's not a huge problem because The Revenant isn't so dependent on dialogue, but that's the reason why he's at number 4. Now, 3rd place, I'm going to put Mark Ruffalo from Spotlight. Most people do agree that he is the standout in the ensemble. Spotlight is still definitely an ensemble piece, but if there's like one actor that people really turn to as the best of the ensemble, it's probably Mark Ruffalo, and I do agree because he has that one outburst scene against Michael Keaton's character that pretty much like defines the movie. But his performance is definitely more than that. Generally speaking, he's the most riled up of the Spotlight team, so to me, he's like the audience character. He's the one that we identify with the most because he's reacting the way we react. And he goes through the most emotions, I believe, among the rest of the cast because, he's running around everywhere. You get to see him sort of excited. You get to see him sort of sad. It doesn't look like a very showy role, but I was so impressed with what Mark Ruffalo was able to do. I mean, he changed his posture and the way he spoke and like his hairstyle and whatnot. So I did forget that I was watching Mark Ruffalo, and that's just how good of an actor he is. Now at 2nd place, and I know a lot of people are going to think that this is the popular choice, but I'm putting him at 2nd. I'm putting Sylvester Stallone from Creed. It's an understatement to say that Sylvester Stallone was good as Rocky Balboa again in Creed. You have to understand what he's doing with this character. He takes a character that's been deified by pop culture and then forgotten. Like, Rocky has been both at the top of Hollywood and at the bottom, and what Sylvester Stallone does here is that he turns this character human again. Like, there's so much emotion in his performance, and such a subtle performance as well, that he reminds us that this character is a human being. Stallone's performance in Creed is so aware of the character's history, not just like the fictional history, but his history in pop culture, because where Rocky is in Creed, he's obviously lost a lot of people, but at the same time it feels like he's down at the bottom after like that string of bad Rocky movies. And I know people like Rocky Balboa, but he isn't at his former glory, and he really plays on that very well. But when you see him playing Rocky Balboa again in Creed, it feels like he never left. It feels like the same Rocky, just older and wiser. And finally, at number 1, the actor who I think deserved to win the Oscar was Mark Rylance in Bridge of Spies. Now, the very first time I saw Bridge of Spies in cinemas, I immediately thought this guy could easily win. Like, I had no idea who Mark Rylance was before watching the film, but I was blown away by his performance. He turns in such a measured performance that really is expected of a spy, but I feel like any other actor would have turned this role into a really bland sort of showcase of like stoicism. But what Mark Rylance does in this movie is a lot deeper than that, in my opinion, because it's not just about him being stoic. It's like he's, you know, accepted his fate either way, but he has like this quiet dignity about him. And you have those scenes where Tom Hanks's character asks him like, "Aren't you scared?" And then Mark Rylance replies, "Would it help?" And like I feel like that defines his character so well, because no matter what happens to him, if he dies or if he doesn't, like he is kind of at peace with himself. But that's just my interpretation of his character. What Mark Rylance does so well in this film is that he leaves his character open to interpretation. So by the end, he's still kind of a mystery, but then by that time, Steven Spielberg and the rest of the filmmaking crew have stripped away all our preconceived notions about Russian spies, and we don't see Rudolf Abel as a spy. We see him as a human being who needed saving, and you know, that's a great feat. Now, as for my prediction as to who was going to win the Oscar, I really thought they were going to give it to Sylvester Stallone for Creed. Don't get me wrong, I am actually really happy that they gave it to Mark Rylance, because like I said, I think he's deserving. But I really thought they were going to give it to Stallone because, you know, Rocky is such a huge symbol of American cinema, and the Academy loves comeback stories, and Stallone, like, this is like the mother of all comeback stories. So I'm bummed that he lost, but happy that Rylance won. Alright, so those are my thoughts on the Best Supporting Actor category. What do you guys think of the category? What do you think of the nominees? Who do you think was going to win? Who do you think deserved to win? Whatever you guys think, whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.